Hi everyone, this is just going to be an introduction to dimensions and show you some of the screens, the layout, the options in terms of formatting the presentation, how things can be laid out, and hopefully just give you a general sense of what the system is capable of. So this is a test database and I've just logged in as the system administrator, so I have full access to all of its capabilities. So at the moment, the way I've set up the system, I have on the left-hand side here a menu of all of the functions and modules within the system. Across the top of the screen, I also have the same options. So you'll see that the sales ledger, purchase ledger, nominal, etc. are available there. If I want to go into a supplier account, I can do it from this menu option across the top. Equally, I can go to the purchase ledger here, brings up my purchases, and I can go directly to suppliers. I've also pinned an option here called favorites. So I just unpin that for a moment. We'll see that if I go back into purchases, purchase ledger comes to the top of the list. However, if I chose to pin my favorites, I can assign a number of favorite keys here. And then we can actually have the ledger appear below the favorites. So then to get to suppliers, I have the option just click on suppliers and the supplier window opens up. Equally, I can click on customers and the customer window opens up. So the actual customer windows and suppliers should look quite similar to what you had in Horizons. We have some enhanced functionality in terms of searching. So if I wanted to search for a particular customer, I can simply come in here and type in the first few characters of the name. It's not case sensitive, so I just put in the first few characters. So we'll just say we look for all accounts beginning, where the name begins with J-O, and we get a short list there. If I wanted to look for accounts where there was J-O somewhere, or in other words, it contained J-O someplace in the whole thing, I get a slightly longer list of accounts which contain J-O. Just isolate that for even further. We'll just go to that level, so then we actually highlight the individual accounts. If you don't want this menu to be constantly on screen, you can just unpin it, and then the next time that we open it, we just go back into customers, so it'll minimize that and just provides more real estate on screen than for other information that we might be more interested in searching for. So now I have the option to actually maximize this window, do my search criteria down here, or look at a given customer account on screen here. I can obviously sort this information as well, and if I wish, I can export it to Microsoft Excel. So that's the basic in terms of just showing you a little bit about how we can set up our menu style. There is an alternative style available as well. So if I just come up here to info and come down to the menu style option, I can turn on a thing called ribbon. And once we do that, things are going to change. So now the layout is the more modern ribbon style layout, where I have the modules listed on a series of tabs across the top. And then if I click on debtors, I get the option to go to customers. After that, the functionality largely in this area remains unchanged. There are some modifications. So for example, to edit a customer account, I have an edit icon here to insert a new one, to find, to scroll through records. So for example, these keys here allow me to actually just look at the 4 tabs that I have, and then if I scroll right, I have some additional tabs available as well. If we want to look at terms, we just have to click on the terms icon and so on. So that option is quite different in terms of presentation. The functionality is identical, so it's a question of personal choice as to how you'd like the screen set up for yourself. You have a few options there, so when we get into training proper, we can cover those off in greater detail. Personally, I'm a fan of the old school, just because I've been using the system for a long time, and this is how it was set up when I started, and Horizons would still sort of function in this way. So perhaps something like this will make the transition from Horizons to Dimensions a little bit easier for people. Just while we're looking at customer accounts, then some of the enhancements that we have here. So we obviously have the information as you would have in Horizons. You have your icons across the top in terms of the functions of what you can do from within a customer account. That scroll button that we were looking at a few moments ago there. So we have a number of tabs here containing information such as sort keys, notes, contact information, bank information. Comms here would allow me to record information such as web information, such as the internet, web access. So if these are perhaps suppliers would be more relevant, where we could connect to their online ordering systems and place orders, record their password details, etc. For our customers, we could also have it that they have secure access to an area of our website if the business has an e-commerce function. Customization allows me to put in some additional fields. If I haven't got enough in everything I have here, I can create my own user-defined fields and give them specific purposes. We also have the option here for documents, and with this setting we can actually say that when we print invoices we want them to go to one of a number of locations. So we can either have it that, as it is right now, that for this particular customer, when we print an invoice, it goes directly to the printer, or we can choose to have his invoices print somewhere else. So in other words, we can send them directly to email, fax, or a file. When we actually choose the invoice layout, we can actually say different types of layout available as well. So basically any layout that we set up beginning with INV, we can then have it as an option here on his list. So again, just kind of a quick overview of some of the capabilities of the system. We'll get into a lot more of that in training. On the transaction side of things, then, if we just go to the nominal ledger for a moment, and we'll see that we have options here then to go look at our nominal accounts. This doesn't change a whole lot from what we would have had traditionally. We have the chart of accounts. Each nominal account is given a major heading. It belongs in one of 12 major headings. If I want to insert a new nominal account, I simply click on the insert button. System will obligate me to pick one of those major headings and then enter a code. In dimensions, as you can see here, the account codes can be any length from 1 to 25 characters, and they're alphanumeric, so you can have letters as well as numbers. We do have the options here for categories, so we can actually classify accounts under various category headings. So we've gone to some of that in this database. That allows me then to run reports such as a trial balance or profit and loss based upon category criteria or search criteria that we enter here. We have a nice little nominal summary function here now. So if I wanted to run a trial balance, this comes up in a transactional style window where I can then say I want to run trial balance for a period, and within that then it allows me to actually drill down into those periods. I can also sort of set my category code options here. So if I just refresh the report, and then when I expand on that, if we have the categories applied to nominal accounts, it would allow me to sort that information. So from there then we have options such as we can export to Excel, or we can right click and we can choose to copy either the selected lines or all lines to the clipboard, and that allows me just to pump that information directly out to Excel. Again, we get into that more in training. We have other search criteria options here then as well. So we currently have our filters available down here. So as I've said, we could, for example, choose to filter our accounts by just looking at accounts within a particular range. On the system access and control side of things, we now have we still have our user records. New functionality that you wouldn't have had before. When you set up user accounts, you can then actually apply a profile to them, and a profile simply means that a user is given a particular profile. Profile looks like this. And if we drill in on that, so just go to a profile that we will look at some changes on. So we have this sales orders profile, and anyone who is given this profile then will have access to, for example, the sales orders module, and within transactions we can say they have access to sales orders, and then we have capabilities here to actually say what we want them doing within the sales orders. So we can set certain things to be enabled or disabled. So if we just go into edit mode here, so we could say, for example, that we want to disable the option for them, or disable the option for them to go into the options button, and we'll set the default that batching orders is the way we want them to go automatically allocating transactions if we have our stock if we have it. We can say do not print credit notes, or sorry, delivery notes rather. So various options on that. And then this profile, which we're calling orders here, is then assigned to an individual or multiple or many individuals across the database, depending on how we want to set it all up. Profiles also allow me then to actually set up things like multi-period or future period posting. So we just go back into a profile here. So there's a profile called master with future period posting. Essentially that just means that within the multi-period posting function, we've set up they can post up to 12 periods ahead in each of the ledgers. In terms of the data entry, things remain largely familiar, but obviously there has been some sort of progression in terms of just how these screens are laid out. So within the sales orders, for example, we'll just come back into that as sales orders. We have the traditional options where we can just actually search for customers, and we have the enhanced search capabilities there as well. So if we look for accounts that meet certain criteria, we can then pick up on that customer. It displays for us his notes, details, or previous order information, and so on. We obviously have the multiple addresses option available, and we can flag these sales orders to be set at a particular status. We can also set some fields to be compulsory, so as we tab on through, if there is a compulsory field, we'll be advised that we must put something into that field. And you can see then that once we get onto the details section, we can call up a stock item, put in a quantity. It'll advise us what the available quantity is for that stock item. If there are notes on it, we'll see them up here. We have a default pricing and sales analysis, VAT rate, etc. We can put in more description if we wish to. And as we tab on down, then we're building up a list in the summary section of the report here. And again, this is optional as to how we present it, but probably the most useful way to present it is to have the data entry at the top part of the screen and then a summary of the lines appearing below that or beneath that. So that is the sales order entry screen. We can, as we would have in Horizons, we have the option of batching the transaction. We have some other enhancements such as allocating stock if we're a stock type business. And we can choose then to actually add this transaction into the batch. The processing of the batch is similar, well, quite similar to what we would have had in Horizons. So if I just go into my sales order batch, again, some enhancements here, but remains reasonably familiar. Within the sales order batch, then we have options such as we can go to a detailed screen, look at the status of our lines, and say if we wish to deliver them. Obviously, we can only deliver them if we have the stock available to us, and we can also complete individual lines or close the entire order. So close lines or close the order. Entering purchase invoices is quite similar. We go into purchase ledger and purchase invoices. We call up a list of our suppliers. And again, we can search for the suppliers with the same functionality. Pick up our supplier here, enter an invoice number. If we want to, we can turn on an internal reference number to appear here as well. So just go do that. So then I can say that there's either an internal transaction number, and I can choose to have a starting point for that if I wish to. I could have that shown instead of the audit number if that would help. And of course we can then use either the menu on the left hand side here, or we could choose to go with these options across the top and enter a purchase invoice. So you'll see I now have an internal reference number appearing. Call it my supplier. Enter an invoice number. System generates the next internal reference number, and I continue with the transaction. I have my details then with purchase analysis, net VAT gross value, so it's within the net value, project costing if it's applicable, and I can add an infinite number of detail lines which all appear down here in the lower part of the screen as a summary set. On the right hand side here is telling me the nominal accounts that will be debited by this transaction. Obviously the creditors control account and the VAT will be updated by the transaction. We have some options on the header screen here as well then, so we can batch the transaction, or we can post it immediately, make payment, allocate, enter gross values and so on.